On today's show, what kind of small forward, not necessarily who, but what kind of player would help the Cavs fix their minutes at small forward? We're going to talk about it on a new episode of Locked On Cavs for Friday, May 26th.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I'm Chris Manning. I'm covering the Cavs and the NBA for outlets like SB Nation, Cleveland Magazine, and the Just Basketball Show. That man over there is Evan Dammarell. He's the founder of independent site Down Euclid, which covers the entire Cleveland sports scene. As always, we have Jake Stevens producing. Thanks again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. We are free, remember, free, Free, and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, segment 1 today. What skills do the Cavs need on the wing at small forward? Segment 2. Who is the best option to be an internal answer to these needs? Who? Whom? Third segment, favorite offseason targets that are somewhat within the realm of possibility, all that stuff. But Evan, I'm going to list off some needs here. You tell me which way you want to go. This is in no order, just some ones that I listed out when I was making our outline for the show. Movement shooting, strength, just being a little, yoked, being 6'5" to 6'8", plus being a plus 3-point shooter overall, not just being a movement shooter, but like an actual plus shooter, can defend bigger wings, and someone who is tough, someone who is not afraid to mix it up a little bit. Which one do you want to talk about?
Let's talk about movement shooting, because that, in my eyes, I chuckled at the size thing, but that's the prerequisite to play. The
Cavs are also just, the Cavs are their own, dating app. They're just their own version of like trying to make people lying on apps about their heights in the NBA. Is that a thing? I don't know. But like NBA heights are like completely sus. NBA heights are like, everyone is probably like, Kevin Durant is like one of the few people in the NBA who's like lying about how tall he is. See, that man is 7 feet tall.
Actually 7 foot, but he doesn't want to be classified as it's a true thing during the draft process, I believe. And even after like his early years in OKC and Seattle, he said he didn't want to be considered a power forward. He was 6'10", 6'11". I don't know. He's short. He's like, he claims to be shorter than he actually is. He also wears a shoe size. It's like 2 sizes too big.
Yeah. All right, so movement shooting. What draws you to movement shooting as something we need to hit on as we talk about this?
Because I think about how Kobe Allman and his end of season media availability talked about how the Cavs want to utilize Evan Mobley more as like an offensive hub, kind of play to his strengths as a passer and a playmaker, whether it's in the post or maybe he's just initiating the pick and roll, something he talked about doing and we never really saw a ton of. And just maybe unlocking the offense and adding depth and dimension to that. And having Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland playoff ball is, the Cavs found success with it, like especially when one of Garland or Mitchell was bending the defense towards them and the other was getting wide open. But if you're kind of having those two run around and tire out defenses, you need like another shooter who can maybe benefit from those two getting defensive respect and attention and just open up the offense entirely. So you need a guy who is comfortable shooting from pretty much anywhere on the floor, but within the flow and the movement of the offense and how the Cavs just kind of function and facilitate. And I think Evan Mobley just having the vision and just having the size to be able to see the court as a quarterback, like in that regard, could be really beneficial and unlock a lot of things for the Cavs. Like I think about how the Nuggets use Kentavious Caldwell-Pope with the Nuggets, and that'd be so ideal if the Cavs could even get like a modicum of that with Evan Mobley and a movement shooter.
So I think the movement shooting part of it is really about like unlocking more layers to the offense. I think like whether it is a Mobley thing, which I think is a good shout, but I think also just like having back screen set for coming up and just having other actions. I just think sometimes the Cavs offense last year, I think especially in the playoffs, but overall, really got just very one note, very one action. I think if you want to make your offense, which you need like an elite offense to contend for titles, history and this year is telling us you need to both, as an indicator, your offense needs to be really good. The Cavs offense, I don't think was quite good enough at that level. I didn't trust it enough, let's say. I think where I go with this is a movement shooter who you can set pin downs for, who you can have like as like a secondary action off of your main action. You can add in these more layers, give yourself different looks. I think it would just give your offense just a little more functionality. And I think like that, like they just also just from a purely structural standpoint, you need shooting off of Mobley and Allen. You just do. If you're going to run that back, and that's going to continue to be a big part of what you are, shooting just has to be something better. Shooting defense's respect has to be part of the plan if you're going to play those two guys together.
Absolutely. This is something I hammered on, at least in Thursday's episode when we talked about Jared Allen and just focused on it, and the uncomfortable decision of maybe having to trade Allen is if Mobley doesn't develop as a shooter and Jared Allen, like, unfortunately he practices threes, I just don't see him becoming like a shooting big. It's really hard to function in today's NBA when you're playing with two near 7-footers or 7-footers on the floor at the same time, especially when they provide you no spacing, because it just clogs the paint. Defenses are having an easier time defending you and maybe reading you, especially in the postseason. And just movement shooting and just that gravity and pull could unlock a lot of things. And maybe that was the logic like behind starting Karis LeVert, just because the numbers weirdly enough indicated like LeVert was having his best season 3-point shooting wise this year for Cleveland. And he wasn't very great in the midi. And like maybe that could have added some depth and wrinkles, but you need more of that just to kind of unlock things further and make life easier, not just for your bigs because you're playing the both of them together or one of them individually, but Mitchell and Garland as well, because the less defensive attention they get, or the fact that they can feed off of a teammate who's feeding off of their defensive pressure, like that's just going to make life easier for everybody on this team.
What I think though is like it's LeVert, like, yes, had the good 3-point shooting season, but I think it is like if they actually added anyone in season that fits kind of what I'm hinting at, it's like weirdly Sam Merrill, who's not, I think, like an answer to any of this, and like I don't even know if he's going to be on the team next year. He's certainly not like an option to start at the 3, but the way Merrill plays is like coming off of screens.
Current additions to this team, like I think Kennard, like Luke Kennard was like that guy.
Well, yeah. But I'm saying like you mentioned LeVert as like a shooting option, and like that maybe being part of this. He just isn't like a movement shooter. A movement shooter is like coming off of screens. Like Kyle Korver is like the textbook. If you open the dictionary and it's like, okay, what is a movement shooter? What is the template for that? It starts with Kyle Korver and then Ray Allen, and it has evolved from there. And their guys do all these different funky things. Like Duncan Robinson got paid a crap ton of money by being a really good movement shooter for a stretch, and now he's like back playing well. Wouldn't trade for him though. Just want to know you might say something about that. Not sure. Wouldn't trade for him. Like the only guy they really have like in house that kind of moves in that way, it's like really like Merrill, and it's like he does like a very specific thing that is Kennardy. I don't know if it is like, I don't think Merrill's like an answer to this in a real way, but it's like watch how KCP plays coming off of screens, and that's why that was a really good shot by that. Like they have fit wings and got wings that fit what they do, but unlock the other stuff around you. Like MPJ is that in his own way. They have found stuff like that. The Cavs don't have like any wing who is like, you know what I would love to do? I love to run and move and come off of action and fire up a 3. LeVert wants to, like, if he comes off of a screen off the ball, he wants to get the ball, he wants to gather it, he wants to probe, he wants to take his time, and then maybe take like a pull-up 3. His first inclination is not to just like whip off of movement, rise up and go. Like they need someone like that to provide that level of dynamicism. I think they need that level of dynamicism off the ball to really kind of elevate and kind of keep things moving a little bit and kind of push back against some of the worst instincts of your best players.
I agree with that. The movement shooting is interesting, and to go even further, like I think that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope edition for the Nuggets was one of the best moves a team made during the marginal moves, I guess, within the offseason, because I think that was a difference maker for Denver, and the Michael Porter Jr. aspect of it too is interesting as well, just because they're playing off of and feeding off of the hub that is Nikola Jokic. And like the Lakers tried to give the Nuggets their best in game 4, and they did for a bit, but then KCP and MPJ were just like hitting these back-breaking threes, and then Jokic just like throws up a prayer as well. And like, again, it's just a fascinating case study of like how you can copy these teams that have been there or are trying to win a championship. And the Cavs could take a lot of notes, whether it's Milwaukee or now Denver as well. But just Sam Merrill on paper, yeah, he's that guy because that's how the Charge utilized him a lot, especially with Isaiah Mobley acting as like that pseudo offensive hub where he would like attack from the high post, and then Merrill will just come streaking down the floor, or is in a fast break scenario and Merrill acts as a trailer and is able to hit a three, or just Merrill just is comfortable throwing up 3-pointers if he needs to. He has the Cleveland Charge franchise record in their entire existence for most 3-pointers made in a game. So it is interesting, but also Merrill just like wasn't a guy that you could just say like, okay, Sam, we need you to go out there and like provide us 3-point shooting, even though he hardly ever played for us.
All right, after this, we're going to talk about some internal options to actually beat the three. Sam Merrill will not be in that discussion unless Evan takes us there, but I will not be viewing him as
under contract.
Yeah, but do I think he's like a starting small forward option? No. But today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets for your favorite event should not be stressful. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. There's flash deals and last-minute tickets, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. There are images of seat views. Gametime is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, and theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee, by the way, means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, and that is guaranteed. Thanks for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. Every day, as we're going to be back after the weekend, and next week we're going to turn our attention to the power forward spot. That means talking a lot about Evan Mobley, which I'm always happy to do. Evan, who is the Cavs' best chance of being an eternal answer to be fit this need, fit movement shooting, fit the defensive part of it, fit all these needs that like at least some of the needs? Who is the best internal answer that they have to maybe fill those needs?
That's a big ask.
At least some of them. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them.
If he's healthy and out of that weird funk he was in since the shoulder injury, it's Dean Wade on paper. Like the options are slim and grim. And if you're looking at it like maybe Isaac Okoro can be that guy, but like he's going to be your best point of attack defender and kind of give you that defensive upside. But like Dean Wade at least has a bit of that lateral quickness. He plays hard. He is a bit of a soft rebounder, but he at least gives you the shooting aspect. And he's also very comfortable working off of screens and being a trailer and maybe being a guy where like if you kick in the ball, you're like, all right, Dean, just pull the trigger and rip it as soon as you get as soon as you get the ball past you on the perimeter. Like he could kind of be that guy for Cleveland, and maybe that's why they started him for a bit. But again, the options are slim and or grim when it comes to like what you have to look at in the grand scheme of like the depth chart of this position.
So I looked at this and started doing process of elimination.
When you're doing the ad reads, I mulled over my answer. And I'm just like, it's either Jetty in terms of the shooting, or I'm just like, maybe it's Dean. I don't know.
It's not Jetty. It is not Jetty Osman. That guy is not a good enough defender or has the upside to be a good enough defender. Like, we know what he is. He is not kind of think what would make the most sense within what they need. The shooting is there. I get that. He's not like your kind of knighted and like answer at this spot that you're looking for. It is not Lamar. Lamar's just not a good enough shooter. It is not Sam Merrill, who is like, if he's on the team, he's going to be like on the back end of the rotation and like is it really a
body
two
shots at Jackson Flickinger back to back.
That's his fault for
space back.
Yeah. there's a third one. There's no one else in the G League orbit that I'm really like, yeah, like let's pluck that and transfer that. Not in there, at least not in the Cleveland Charge orbit. There are guys I like, not exactly what we're talking about here. LeVert is not what I think we are getting at in terms of a skill set of what you really need. I don't think that's what LeVert is. So you get down to two names. You said Dean Wade. That's your pick. I think that's a very reasonable pick. I think the other one is Okoro. I think Okoro is like has the pedigree of being a former, like whether he should have been or not, he was your former 5th overall pick, had the best 3-point shooting year of his career last year, is strong. Certainly maybe doesn't defend up in the way you would, I think, kind of like for this spot, in my opinion. He doesn't really kind of scale up defensively as well as he does at the point of attack. I think that's kind of a case against him in this case. Not because I feel like Dean Wade is like a lockdown defender. I don't really feel great about where what Dean is defensively, but he's at least a little bit bigger. And if he's healthy, maybe that fixes itself. Like the only two answers here are Okoro or Wade, and I think that maybe the bigger point here, Evan, is you look at both those names and it's like I still own Okoro stock. I think the Cavs, like they gave Dean Wade a contract. I think they are hoping to get him going a little bit in a different way. You look at those answers, you can look at those options, and it's like I don't exactly know how much I trust it doesn't feel like the answer is really inside the house already.
It's not. I mean, the killer's inside the house if the Cavs want to kill their percentage chances of finding a permanent option starting three. To your point, like LeVert was ruled out for me because in the first segment, you had mentioned like when he gets the ball, he likes to set himself and maybe set the offense up a little bit. Like he doesn't have that just quick trigger. Okoro, the pedigree is there. I think the defensive component really just makes a compelling argument for him. But I have my reservations on the perimeter stuff where there are moments where we've harped on this a lot, especially when we talked about Isaac at length. That shot against Brooklyn really was like the crystallization of what you needed him to be for this current iteration of the Cavs. And unfortunately, the injury happened, and I think just Bickerstaff losing his confidence in him entirely, like, I don't think it set back his development because he certainly played hard whenever he got minutes in the postseason. But like, unless something dramatic changes, like he is a liability on the perimeter and really clogs up the offensive flow for Cleveland because a defender will just sag off of him. And to your point, like Dean Wade's not like a plus defender. He's not a plus athlete comparatively to Okoro. He has his limitations as a big or just a small forward in this case, but it's tough. And yeah, it's between those two. And that's when you have to kind of say like, okay, let's pivot and maybe pursue trades for veterans that could be available, or we look at what we can do with the mid-level exception options and just kind of get creative this offseason to answer a very glaring need for this Cavs team.
Yeah, after this, we're going to dive into some of those offseason target options. That's, I think, where the fun of this comes to. If you want to dream big right now before maybe the summer points you in other directions and we see what happens. Well, you know. But first, got to tell you, remind you again, we'll be back on Monday every day. We're going to be diving into Evan Mobley in the power forward spot and have just a really big Evan Mobley week in all likelihood. But today's episode is also brought to you by Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs recently sent us some free product, and I got to say, I'm loving the Bird Dogs. Right the other day, I wore a pair of their shorts to work, and they were extremely comfortable to wear into the office in a professional setting. And then I went on a midday walk to get some fresh air, get some vitamin D, and they were really comfortable then as well. And then after work, I went out to my parents. We went to dinner, and I wore the shorts then too. They are versatile for everything. I have a pair of workout shorts from them. I'm going to try tomorrow as well. Very excited about that. These are super versatile, super comfortable shorts that allow you to wear them to the golf course, to a meeting, on a date, or hanging out with friends. And they make pants too, which is awesome. They fit great. I can't wait to get some more of these so I'll be comfortable and looking great all year long. These might end up being the only pants and shorts that I own. So go to birddogs.com/LockedInNBA and enter the promo code LockedInNBA. You get a free tumbler with the Bird Dogs logo on it. Evan, why don't you I know you have that tumbler. Show the people on YouTube.
I'm wearing my professional Bird Dogs right now too.
Here's the thing. You put the tumbler behind your mic so no one saw the tumbler. Yeah. See, there you go. You get that promo code LockedInNBA at birddogs.com/LockedInNBA.
Cheers.
All right, Evan, let's hit some names. Let's talk about some guys. I'll go first. Kind of become a Max Strus guy in the playoffs. Just like the shooting. I think he's listed at 6'5". I think he plays a little bit bigger than that to me. He's super competitive. He is not like getting absolutely ruined when the teams try to switch him or they get Jimmy Butler off of him. Like, he's not huntable. Look, certainly some risk, and you get out of that Miami ecosystem and things go wrong. But I'm a Max Strus fan. If you got him on with part of your MLE or something, I think that would be a pretty interesting bit of business.
I think it will be too. Just my reservation with Strus is how does he look outside of Miami? Is he the same player just because the Heat are such a odd team just because they're zombies? But more than that, it's just the offensive system that they run is pretty different from what Cleveland utilizes, and is Strus going to be maximized in Cleveland like he was in Miami, especially just with how functional and good he's been? And also, he could be paid I don't want to say a handsome amount, but he could be paid enough that like just keeps him out of Cleveland's range in terms of just free agency targets. So like that's a little bit of a tough draw and maybe a tough ask for the Cavs just to kind of consider what they want to do. For me, in terms of just like guys who could be available heading into this free agency period, because the list isn't great. Like for a team like Cleveland who needs like upgrades on the wing, like it's not awesome for like who is or is not available heading into free agency. And it all depends if he picks up his player option or not. But if Josh Hart enters the world of free agency and he for some reason wants to sign with the Cavs for that full MLE and the Cavs just like completely throw the bag at him, like, sure, why not pursue that option? Because it's a dude who, sure, the 3-point upside isn't there, but he provides you the physicality, provides you the size. That rebounding edge is certainly big. And also he could be just like a culture guy too for the Cavs. I think they need a guy like that who can kind of just hold everyone else accountable, maybe push them when they're feeling uncomfortable in the moments of the tightest. And more than anything, if you run into New York again, at least you can kind of hurt their chances of beating you. Because you have like one of the biggest X factors that killed you the last time you saw each other in the playoffs.
He would be great. I didn't put him on my list because I think he's just going back.
I think he'll get paid more than what the MLE is, but if he declines that player option, the Cavs can somehow get in the conversation. Sure.
Well, so he's gonna. I think he's gonna decline that option. And just all the reporting is like the Knicks are just gonna take care of that. Yeah, tough.
It's tough. Do you have any other free agency targets that you'd like the Cavs to take a gander at?
Yeah, here Grant Williams. We've talked about him before. This is dreaming big. I have when watching most every Celtics game during this playoff run, I have not fully understood like why that is not a lever that Joe Mazzulla has pulled more. Like he is strong. Like, look, I understand like he's been turned into a meme a couple times, like with doing stuff like I'm gonna make both against the Cavs and then like the Jimmy Butler stuff the other night. I like that guy is like not afraid of doing stuff like that. I think that's like a really good mentality to have. I also think he's a good shooter. He can give you a little bit of playmaking, and he's big and strong and scales up defensively. I think like that is someone you really need to hope Boston like loses game 5 and like just like things get weird and they need to reshuffle. And again, for whatever reason, Mazzulla like has taken a little bit to really like go back to Grant. He played freaking Peyton Pritchard in the beginning of that series and didn't play Grant. I like had no idea what was going on. And Peyton Pritchard's fine, but I just didn't understand like just play Grant, who was good. So he got shaken free, and you could find a way to like get in on that and like pull a Jared Allen type of thing where you kind of get a guy who is moving and this other team doesn't want him for whatever reason. I'd be jumping on that at all possible, because that would be like that size, like a little bigger, can shoot, can play the 4 as well, is kind of to me like the ideal of what you would want. You can patch together some of the other stuff, but like a guy who can scale up and play next to Mobley or play next to Allen at the 4 while one of those is at the 5 to me is a thing that like gives you just a little more versatility in your front court looks.
I like that pick. I think, like you said, the versatility is a key factor there, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I keep shooting up names that are kind of like just loftier options, but considering that the Sixers could be imploding pretty soon, they might lose Jalen McDaniels in free agency, and perhaps McDaniels wants to join with Cleveland. Like the shooting upside isn't there, but like it's the versatility, it's the physicality. I think he can play the 3 or the 4 because like a bigger forward. Maybe he could be a little cheaper than what Grant Williams is, but maybe Grant Williams is cheaper. Like those two are completely different players, but like I think those are like your more like high end targets if you're the Cavs using this mid-level exception. And I would consider that possibility just because Philly may not be able to retain him because they're dealing with the coaching stuff and they have to deal with the James Harden mess and they kind of have to figure out ways to make Embiid happy. Like it's a bigger, very, very messy and sloppy situation right now in Philly, and the Cavs could be advantageous and swoop in and scoop up a pretty intriguing young free agent.
Yeah, I'm not as high in the McDaniels thing. Like, didn't play a ton of the playoffs. Like, I don't think is... Like, Grant to me is like, I know exactly what I'm getting. I think McDaniels, there's a bit of projection there. And that's a little more...
That's fair. And I know he was on a very bad Hornets team for quite a while. And, like, he didn't shoot a ton of threes for Philly in the regular season. And as Chris noted, like, didn't start for the Sixers. Only played about 13 minutes per game for the Sixers in the postseason. And didn't do much of anything with those minutes. But, like,
yeah,
it's the defensive edge, and just I think about how JV Bickerstaff utilizes his players. I think just having like a bigger small forward who can be that defensive grinder and maybe has a bit more shooting upside than Isaac Okoro could be a cleaner path to the starting 3.
The last name, and I don't think this one's realistic, but and just thinking about like how look, I think the Cavs to get someone who really moves the needle are going to need something to shake loose. That is the crux of this whole thing. Is I think to get a Grant Williams, to get, maybe Miami moves in other directions and Strus pops free, whatever. You need things to shake loose and get lucky a little bit, I think. If the Los Angeles Lakers do like a sign and trade for Kyrie and they go down the Kyrie route for whatever reason, LeBron wants it, okay, whatever. It becomes a lot harder for them to keep Rui Hachimura. Like a lot harder, and he has been great in the playoffs, has been really awesome. And if look, I don't know, I don't think it's super likely. I think they're going to keep Rui, they're going to keep Reeves. Like, and if they do the Kyrie thing, they're going to probably try to sign and trade it and keep it all in house and figure that out. That's really hard to do though. And if Rui does just kind of end up out there for whatever reason, and you could, even if like just whatever way, that is just a name that I would have in my dream list if things get a little wonky and they just can't keep him for whatever reason.
Yeah, that could be a possibility, and that's where the murkiness of this all kicks in. Like D'Angelo Russell's also a free agent for the Lakers as well, and like there's a lot of things.
Here's the difference though. Rui played really well in the playoffs and is good.
That's what I'm trying to get at though. Is just like how do the Lakers target and address their free agency needs, and does it end up being with like Rui Hachimura ends up being like the linchpin to get Kyrie Irving in a sign and like a double? I don't know. Sign and trades really happen. Like the Heat are like one of the few teams that like utilize the sign and trade to upgrade their teams when they got Jimmy Butler and Goran Dragic. But Kyle Lowry. But like it's murky in the Lakers don't have a ton more questions and answers comparatively to the Cavs, but yeah, they are going to go big name hunting, especially with LeBron kind of utilizing the media hype train to mention retirement to completely ignore the fact that the Lakers got swept in the Western Conference Finals.
All right, well, I'm not touching that. I know,
but either way, trades. Or one last name for me, Harrison Barnes. If he somehow doesn't want to re-sign in Sacramento, but it seems like all indications that he's probably going to stay with the Kings. And like he's just like that culture guy. He's a dude who loves being with the Kings. But like the Cavs could go get Harrison Barnes. Like that wouldn't be a bad option either. Like that's another like high end option for me, other than like Grant Williams or maybe like the idea of McDaniels.
All right, we're going to end there. Thanks again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Every day is back on Monday again, starting off our Power Forward / Evan Mobley week. Come tuned for that. I've been Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. Thanks again to Jake Stevens, as always, for producing.